Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is my ultimate weapon mod guide for Fortnite Chapter 5. This video is going to go in depth with all the testing I've done on all the weapons in Fortnite Chapter 5 as to what mods you should be adding in order to have the best advantage in the game. It's going to cover things that are very basic to things that are very advanced. So do check the timestamps down below in case there's something that you just want to skip over because you're not interested in it. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So in Fortnite Chapter 5, they've added mod benches. You can find these benches at all the Mythic Vault locations on Island, or sometimes in some of the miniature vaults around the map. So for 75 gold, you're allowed to add multiple different attachments to your weapons. So the first thing is the optic, which is the sight, and there are 4 to choose from. The first one is the red eye sight, which only gives you a 1.15x view and has a red dot. It is more suited for close range combat and close range fights. Next we have the Hollow 13 optic, which has a 1.3x view. It's the only square scope and has a standard style crosshair on it. This crosshair is good for close to medium range combat. Next we have the P2X optic, which is more for medium to medium long range fights, and it kind of has an upside down V for the reticle. And last but not least, we have the sniper scope. Now this one gives you a 4x view, is more suited to long range fights, and has your very traditional sniper crosshair on it. One thing to note about this scope though is no matter what weapon you put it on, you're going to have sniper glint when aiming down the sights. Also, if you get a mythic weapon from the boss, you will not be able to mod those weapons or change them in any way. Next, we're going to talk about the weapon magazine mods that you have available. There's only 2. First one is the drum magazine, which just gives you extra bullets in the clip. But one thing to note about this is it also makes your reload time much slower. The other option is the speed mag, and this modification just allows you to reload your weapons more quickly. Next, we're going to talk about the underbarrel attachments, and you have 3 to choose from. The first one is the angle foregrip, which simply reduces the time for you to aim down the sights. The second one is the vertical foregrip, which improves the recoil when you aim down sights and the spread of your bullets. And last but not least, we have the laser, which increases your hipfire accuracy. Finally, we're going to discuss the barrel attachments. You only have 2 to choose from. The first one is the muzzle brake, which simply just reduces your recoil, and the second one is a suppressor, which is basically a silencer, which reduces muzzle flash and decreases the sound of your gunfire. One thing to keep in mind when using a suppressor on your weapons though, is if you're going for medallions, your location is going to be exposed anyway. Also, your enemies may not be using suppressors, and if your teammates are also not using a suppressor, people are still going to hear the gunfire, you're going to be making a lot of noise, and there's still a chance for third parties to happen. Now, the first weapon we're going to break down in this video is the pistols. So we have the Ranger pistol, the common one does 24 damage, and the legendary does 30. We also have Ballistic Shield, which has a pistol you can fire with, and the lock-on pistol, but neither of these can be modded. Here you can see me firing a blue pistol, which has the laser mod, the muzzle brake, and the drum mag. And next I have a purple pistol, which has a suppressor, speed mag, and the laser sight. As you can see, when I fire the blue pistol with the laser sight and the muzzle brake, the reticle, my crosshair, goes back to perfect accuracy way faster than when I use the one with the suppressor on it. Now for the reload speed, this pistol still reloads really quickly no matter what, so you can really just choose whatever mod you like here. Now the red dot sight, I really do like on this pistol, as this thing just seems to beam people very good. But the Hollow 13 optic, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of it, or maybe it's a suppressor on it. I find it just makes the bullets travel a little differently. So every time when I pick up this pistol, I always opt for the muzzle brake, the laser sight, and the red dot optic. And you can choose whatever magazine you like. The pistol pairs very good with the drum shotty in team game modes, as when you knock an opponent, you can quickly swap to the pistol to finish them, keeping more ammo in your shotgun. Next is the lock-on pistol here. So with this pistol, if you're in range, you just have to aim at the opponent and you'll see this pink circle start filling up, and the bullets will automatically hit whatever you're aiming at. You can also just hip fire this weapon and shoot it, and bullets will go where you point it as it is hit scan. This weapon is great for beaming people off motorcycles or hitting people trying to escape with grapple blades. Next we have the Riot Shield. This weapon comes equipped with a pistol that is very inaccurate. I think it only does like 18 damage. It also has a charge attack. This weapon is great for close quarters or if you're stuck in open areas to just slowly chip away at your opponent's health. This weapon pairs very well with the pump shotty if you swap between the Riot Shield and the pump when fighting your opponent. Time to talk about the SMGs. So we have the Burst SMG, a legendary one does 29 damage, and a common one does only 24 damage. Now there's a reason everybody in FNCS is using this weapon. As you can see here, just with the gray one, 2 headshots completely will do over 250 damage and knock somebody easily in 0 builds. Now here the gun is with the angled foregrip. Now that is good as it is faster, but it's kind of hard to actually aim it and hit the shots with it, I find. Now here's a blue one with the laser attachment and muzzle brake versus a purple one with muzzle brake and the hollow 13 optic. Now look how tiny the crosshair is when I'm shooting it with the one with the laser and the muzzle brake. It's absolutely ridiculous, even when you aim down sights. Now next we're going to compare one with the vertical foregrip and a suppressor to one with the laser and the muzzle brake. So one with the red dot has the vertical foregrip and the suppressor. So look at how much that kicks up. Now this one has just the laser and the muzzle brake with the hollow. There's not really that much difference in the recoil aiming down sights with the one with the vertical foregrip at all. What really makes the vertical foregrip not even worth putting on this weapon at all, even if you do like using a sight on it. So now we're going to look at the P2X object with the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake. And same thing, you see it's still kicking up quite a bit. Now here's the laser sight with muzzle brake and a red dot sight on the train moving, getting a headshot. That should really just prove how much the vertical foregrip on the weapon is just a waste of time. Now here's just shooting with this weapon close range with the red dot sight. It's probably the best sight to use on this weapon as it feels really good. But with this weapon really shines, it's just the laser sight and hip firing. As you see, I was flying through the air, I was able to hit the player. There's just a green one with just a laser sight. It's insane. Now here's a gold one with muzzle brake and laser sight with the hollow optic. And now the hollow optic ain't too bad. The red dot sight just feels much better on this weapon. Now here's the speed mag reload versus the drum mag reload. As you can see, the speed mag reload is just so fast that you probably definitely want to go for this every single time. Now here's some long range shooting with this weapon with the vertical foregrip muzzle brake and the P2X optic. Now this is kind of making this thing like a pseudo assault rifle. Now just because you can do it really doesn't mean that you should. It's probably the worst sight to use on this weapon, and I would probably avoid this at all costs. At this point you might as well just be using an assault rifle or a sniper rifle, to be honest. Now here's some long range shooting with just a green one with just a laser sight. Now look at how much easier of a time I'm having hitting these shots. This gun is completely broken as soon as you put a laser sight on it. This is the reason why everybody is using this weapon in FNCS. I'd actually think you might as well opt to just use this gun without a sight on it every single time. Now I used to put the muzzle brake on it still, but I just thought to myself, well, let's try it with the silencer. And yep, it works just the same. You don't even need to put the muzzle brake on it if you have the laser sight. So the optimal load for the weapon every single time for sure is going to be the speed mag for a fast reload and the laser sight as well. And now if you do want a scope on it, definitely the red dot fits it the best. And if you use that, you're going to want the muzzle brake to reduce the recoil. But you're probably better off going no scope, speed mag, laser sight, and a silencer so nobody can hear your shots, making you less likely to get third party and giving you the greatest advantage possible. And oh boy, now it's time to talk about the alternative, the Hyper SMG. Now the mythic one does 17 damage, and the common one does 13 damage. Now one of the only things this weapon actually has going for it is reload time. So now here's the drum mag reload, which is very fast, versus a speed mag reload, which is also very fast. Now here's aiming down sights with just a laser sight, and aiming down sights with laser and muzzle brake. So now as you see here, the longer you hold it, the worse the recoil gets. It starts going everywhere, so you almost kind of want to shoot this in small little bursts anyway. And it's not really even that much better with the laser sight and the muzzle brake on it. Now here's the hip fire with the exact same attachments, just laser, followed by laser and muzzle brake, and as you can see, the recoil is all over the place. This was also recorded after the item was buffed to have better accuracy. So now here's aiming down sights with a vertical foregrip versus aiming down sights with the laser and muzzle brake. As you can tell, there's not much difference between the two, which is kind of odd. So now let's see what happens when we add a muzzle brake to the one with the vertical foregrip. And as you can see here, the recoil has got a little tiny bit better when aiming down sights. Next, we can see what happens when we add a suppressor with a vertical foregrip or a laser with a suppressor. Now for some reason when you add a suppressor to this weapon, it changes how much recoil and how much spread it has, which is kind of really interesting. Now if you don't put a sight on it, then it's actually even tighter with a suppressor and a laser on it. So if you're not going to run a sight, you're definitely going to want to have the laser sight and a suppressor on this weapon. So next we're going to test different scopes. So the first one is a red dot with vertical foregrip and a suppressor. As you can see, recoil kicks up and then it kind of goes left, right, and makes a T. Now this is laser sight and suppressor with a hollow optic, and look, it makes an even bigger T with more recoil. Now here's a 2x scope with a vertical foregrip and muzzle brake. And as you can see, the recoil is just all over the place. This is why you want to fire this weapon in small bursts. Now here I have height, I'm shooting a guy with the Nemesis AR, and now watch, I'm going to switch to a purple Hyper SMG, and I'm firing this guy, and boom, I get taken out. Because the damage output on this weapon is just way too weak. And here I am again with a gold one, close range, frying somebody, and I still had to switch to an AR just to finish them. Which is why you're always going to want a drum mag on this weapon. Now here I am with the suppressor, a vertical foregrip, car rolling, and I'm able to fry this guy pretty good with this thing. So if you are going to run this weapon due to the weak damage output, you're always going to want a drum mag on it every single time. And you're probably best off to use this weapon by maybe hitting somebody with a pump shotgun, and then switching to the SMG to finish them off, or using this thing to end up finishing opponents that you knock. And oddly enough, the attachments I end up liking on this thing are almost the exact same as the Mythic, except I've opted for the red dot sight instead of the hollow. I guess maybe the Fortnite devs had the same idea. So again, here I'm burst firing it, long range, suppressor, vertical foregrip, red dot sight, drum mag, and just look at the distance. I'm actually able to laser people with this thing. I actually got quite a couple kills, knocked both their bots from this far distance with it. So the thing actually ain't too bad with these attachments on it. But ultimately, the weapon's just too weak. It just doesn't really cut into the current meta. It's a good weapon to pick up if you feel like losing your close range engagement, and there's just so many better weapons you should pick up instead. Which basically leaves this thing in the trash until it gets a damage buff. Now it's time to start discussing the shotgun. We're going to start with the hammer pump shotgun. Now the mythic one does 108 damage, while the common one only does 85. So this next clip, you're going to see laser and muzzle brake versus vertical foregrip and muzzle brake. Now what I found really odd was the one with the vertical foregrip has the hollow sight on it. For some reason the bullet spread was tighter on the red dot sight, which makes zero sense, as the vertical foregrip is supposed to reduce the recoil and spread when you aim down sights. Now here's hipfire and aiming down sights with just a regular common shotgun, just so you can see how the gun reacts. Next we're going to compare that to a blue one with just a laser sight on it. As you can see, the spread gets just a little bit tighter. Next we're going to go throw a suppressor on the shotgun to see what happens. And as you see here, it looks like the bullet spread gets a little bit wider as soon as you put a suppressor on it, but not by much. And now next we're going to try putting the muzzle brake on it. And for some reason the spread, when you put the muzzle brake on it, looks like it's actually a little bit wider than it was with the suppressor. But either way, it's still kind of just about the same. And now here's the real kicker. Here's a shotgun with just a speed mag attachment and a red dot sight. Now watch this. Look at how tight that spread is. So now everyone always says, oh, putting a sight on a shotgun is stupid. Well, in this case, it's going to give you the biggest advantage. So now when using the pump, nothing's more satisfying than just pumping someone in the face or flying through the air and then pumping them in the face. So after my testing with this weapon, my recommendations actually even surprised me. You're going to want the red dot sight, so you have tighter spread in your bullets when you aim down sights, the speed mag, the angled foregrip, so you can quickly ADS faster, the quick scope, and then you're going to want the suppressor because there's not really any difference in the recoil when compared to the muzzle brake, so you might as well have a silent shotgun because that's going to give you the biggest advantage. Now, let's stop for a moment here. You've made it this far in this video, so I'm going to have to ask you, if you've got anything of value from this so far or learned anything, please subscribe and consider smashing that like button. Now let's get back to the video. Now it's time to discuss the Frenzy Auto Shotgun, the King and Zero build. So now the Mythic one does 78 damage per shot, while the common one only does 61 damage. Here's showing how fast you can aim down sights with the angled foregrip compared to without the angled foregrip. Now here's hipfire with the laser sight compared to without a laser sight, so you can see the spread of the bullets. Here's moving around firing with the laser sight, and now here's moving around firing without one. As you can see, the bullet spread is tighter when you have a laser sight equipped compared to when you do not have one equipped. Now here's showing the difference between one with a laser sight and one with laser and muzzle brake, so you can see what happens when you add a muzzle brake. The spread of the bullets with the one with the muzzle brake is notably a little bit tighter than the one without. Here's ADSing with the muzzle brake versus without. Again, with the muzzle brake, you get a little bit of a tighter spread on the bullets. Next, we're going to look at the red dot sight versus the hollow sight, as well as speed mag versus the drum mag, and laser sight muzzle brake versus vertical foregrip and muzzle brake. Here's hipfire with laser and muzzle brake, followed by speed bag reload. Now that reload is still fairly slow because with this shotgun you have to reload all the bullets at once. And now here's hipfire with vertical foregrip and muzzle brake, followed by a drum bag reload. Now look at how slow this drum bag reload is. The drum bag is definitely not what you want on the auto shotgun at all. Now here's aiming down sights with the hollow, with the vertical foregrip. And now here it is with the red dot sight with the laser muzzle brake. Now what? Again, for some reason with the red dot sight, you get a tighter spread on the bullets. Now we're going to compare without a suppressor to what happens when you add a suppressor to the Frenzy Auto Shotgun. You're going to notice that when you hip fire it, it seems to have a wider spread on the bullets, and that's probably not what you want with this kind of shotgun. As the more pellets that hit your target, the more damage you are going to do. Now, when using the Frenzy Auto Shotgun, you really just want to try to get as close to your opponent as quickly as possible and just start spraying and blasting them in the face. It also pairs very well with shockwaves, as you can use them in order to get closer to your opponent, so you can just start spraying them. It's also very good with the flow berries as well. It's very beneficial to try to get some early tags and damage on your opponent before just jumping in on them though, to ensure that you're going to win more fights. Another good tactic is to use the stealthy MP, as this will help you get close to the opponents, take off their shield, and then there's a couple pumps to finish them. Now this clip here is going to show you why you really don't want the drum bag on the shotgun.
No. Reload. Fuck. There's third party. Got it.
When you have the drum bag equipped on this weapon, the reload time is just way too slow, and it's so easy for you to interrupt the reload when you're mantling, and then not have a reloaded shotgun at all when you need it the most. This weapon pairs very good with a sidearm weapon such as an SMG or the pistol, so you can quickly switch over to it with a fast reload in order to take out opponents if you don't finish them right away, or if you get jumped on without having enough time to reload, or to take out knocked opponents to keep more bullets in your shotgun. The best attachments for this weapon are going to be the red eye sight, so that you have a tighter bullet spread when aiming down sights. You're going to want the speed bag for a faster reload, angle foregrip so you can aim in quicker and get those headshots, and then you might as well add the muzzle brake so that you have way less recoil when you're firing the shotgun. Now it's time to cover the assault rifle. So first we're going to start with the Striker AR. Now, common one does 23 damage, while the mythic one does 29 damage. Striker AR is an extremely fast-firing assault rifle that's better suited for close-range combat to medium-range combat. So in this next clip here, we're going to see a comparison aiming down sights with a suppressor versus the vertical foregrip. As you can see, first shot accuracy resets very quickly, regardless of which of these attachments you have on the weapon, and the crosshair is also very small. Next, we're going to test hip firing this weapon with muzzle brake versus hip firing it with a suppressor, and then comparing the reload time with a drum bag versus a speed bag. As you can see, hip fire with a suppressor has a little bit extra bloom, but it's really not that noticeable of a difference. Now first we're going to see a drum bag reload, followed by the speed bag reload. As you can see, the speed bag is notably quicker, but it's also on a gray weapon compared to a gold weapon, so do keep that in mind. And the time it takes to reload a drum bag on a legendary is not too bad. Next, we're just testing quick scoping with the red dot sight, followed by testing a no sight with muzzle brake and vertical foregrip. Now look at the size of the crosshair on this and how little bloom it is and how fast it resets. Now we're going to test aiming down sights with the vertical foregrip, the suppressor, and the hollow 13 optic, compared to the red dot sight with the laser and muzzle brake. As you can see in both examples, the weapon kicks up a little bit, it kind of stays in the same area. It just keeps kind of shooting there, but when you have the laser or the muzzle brake, it does seem to bounce around a little bit more than when you have the vertical foregrip on it. Now we're going to test hip firing the weapon with the laser sight and muzzle brake versus the vertical foregrip with the suppressor. As you can see, the weapon has more bloom with the suppressor, and also it wobbles around a little bit more when firing, compared to the laser and muzzle brake option. Now, in this next clip, you're going to see how deadly this weapon is at close range. As you can see here, I had no problem beating this guy when he was riding on top of the train. And the only attachment I even had on there was a suppressor too. Next, we're testing a sniper scope with vertical foregrip and a suppressor. And now, just in case you can add a sniper scope to this weapon, definitely does not mean you should. Again, this weapon is more suited for close range combat to close to medium range combat. And it's just absolutely awful when you add a sniper scope to it, so just don't do it. You're better off using a scope that's going to complement the weapon for what it's good at and where it excels at. Now here's the laser sight and muzzle brake, the 2x optic, and it's also still not a very good scope to use on this weapon in my opinion, as the recoil is just kind of harder to control, especially when you start getting to a little bit longer ranges. Now here's combat with the red dot scope at very close range, followed by combat with the red dot scope at close to medium range. As you can see, this thing just fries and the scope just feels so good on this weapon. In this next clip here, you're going to see me testing out the Hollow 13 optic on the Striker AR. Now this scope is also very good on this weapon, as it is a perfect scope to use in medium range combat, which the Striker excels at.
As you can see, the damage output of the Striker AR is absolutely insane. In any of the close range to medium close range engagements, you should easily be able to fry your opponents and out-damage them every time. In this next clip here, I'm just testing the hip fire with the laser sight on the Striker AR. And even when you're moving around with this weapon, you're going to notice that it still has a reasonable amount of bloom. And as soon as you get into an engagement with an enemy trying to fight with this weapon this way, it's just not very optimal. You'd be better off just aiming down sight, or using a different weapon that excels much better at hip firing, when you're not muzzle stuffing your opponent. This next clip here, I'm testing the red dot sight with vertical foregrip and silencer, and then it's followed by vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake. As you can see, the recoil is not very different at all compared to these two. Now here you can see I almost fried this guy right off the bike, and that was with vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake. And even here, this close range engagement, I just totally lose this guy, and I do prefer this weapon with the red dot over the hollow scope. So the attachments you're going to want to put on this gun every single time without a doubt are going to be the vertical foregrip and the drum magazine. The reason you want the drum magazine is so that you can easily break the Riot Shielder's block and then still have bullets left in the clip to be able to actually damage them before they can start blocking again with the Riot Shield. Then your choice between the red eyesight or the Hollow 1.3 optic or the suppressor and the muzzle brake. If you're using the Hollow 1.3 optic, you would probably want the muzzle brake just because that'll give you a little bit less recoil, as the scope is better for a little bit longer range than the red dot scope. I still go with the red dot and the muzzle brake every time, as it's just my personal preference. Now let's discuss the Nemesis AR. The common one does 29 damage, while the mythic one does 37 damage. This assault rifle sits right in the middle of all the other ARs, and is basically the all-purpose AR. Next we're going to do a comparison between all the different attachments and scopes. First clip here is hipfire with a suppressor, followed by hipfire with muzzle brake and vertical foregrip, and finally hipfire with muzzle brake and the laser sight. Attachments work as you expect with this one. The muzzle brake and the laser sight has the least amount of recoil. Now here's reload with a drum mag versus reload with a fast mag. It's pretty clear that the quick mag reload gives you the best advantage here. Now here's testing out the recoil with all the different sights, notably the one with the silencer on it and the Hollow 13 optics, which has a little bit more recoil here. Now here's testing out the 2x scope in combat with the suppressor and the vertical foregrip. Now the 2x scope is my favorite scope for this weapon, as it just seems to feel really good when using it. Now here's a hipfire, the same thing on it, and it's not really that great. Same with hipfire with vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake. And here's laser sight with muzzle brake and the red dot sight. Now I don't really feel like this sight is really good on this weapon, as it's just too close of a range, and this weapon is more suited for medium to medium long range fights, I find. And the hipfire with the laser sight and muzzle brake also isn't really the greatest either. Now here's combat testing with suppressor, laser sight, and the Hollow 13 optic. Now the Hollow 13 optic is probably the lowest range scope that you'd want to go with on this weapon in my opinion. But I do find it more difficult to hit shots at longer ranges when you're using the scope, opposed to using the 2x scope. But you can still manage to land some pretty far shots by using the scope still. In comparison to when you try to use the red dot scope at the same distance, it's just complete trash, so I cannot recommend this at all. Next clip is trying to test hipfire with the suppressor of the red dot sight, and surprisingly it works actually pretty well. I actually had more trouble hitting my hipfire shots the next clip here with the laser sight and the muzzle brake for some reason. Most likely probably due to the range. Next we're going to test using this weapon without a scope. The green one has vertical foregrip and muzzle brake, while the gray one has muzzle brake and laser sight. Now this is the part about this gun that really surprised me. I was having an easier time aiming down sights and hitting my shots with the laser sight and muzzle brake compared to using the vertical foregrip.
and the muzzle brake, which is odd because vertical foregrip is supposed to reduce ADS, recoil, and spread. So I've come to notice through all this testing with numerous weapons here that adding a laser sight to a weapon without a scope actually does help when you're aiming down sights with the accuracy. It affects some weapons more than others, but the Nemesis AR is certainly one of those weapons. Now if you're still not sold on this, just wait for this next really far long shot that I managed to hit with this weapon, with this setup. Boom! Wow. Next we're going to test sniper scope with laser and muzzle brake, as well as with vertical foregrip and muzzle brake on the Nemesis AR. Now again, this comes down to using a scope that actually suits the weapon for what it's good at, and is actually at the proper range to be effective with that weapon. So putting this scope on this gun is just really not it. It's so hard to hit your shots, you don't do enough damage, it's just absolutely pointless and a waste of time. So again, just don't do this, it's not worth it because it's not designed to be a super long range weapon. Scope that is actually perfect for this weapon in my opinion is most definitely the 2x scope. It is my go-to every time because it's actually like the perfect range where this weapon is actually still really effective. The Nemesis AR is a very well-rounded assault rifle that's good for a variety of situations. You can use it in close range fights, you can use it at long to medium range. It has a decent fire rate, has a fast reload speed, and it has pretty good damage output. So overall it can fit into any setup regardless of your play style. And it is actually my go-to AR in most cases. I like to run it with the 2x scope, speed mag, vertical foregrip, and the muzzle brake, but also I might start trying it without a scope, with the laser sight and the muzzle brake, as it is pretty good like that too. And it works surprisingly well as a third-person AR. Now let's discuss the Enforcer AR. Now the common Enforcer AR only does 32 damage, while the legendary one does 40 damage. Now this AR is more suited for longer ranges and hits really hard. First, let's test the hip fire with the muzzle brake and the laser sight, and then we're going to check how the recoil is when you aim down sights with a 2x scope. As you can see, the weapon kicks up quite a bit, with quite a bit of vertical recoil. So now let's see what happens when we add the vertical foregrip. As you see there's way less recoil. Now we're just going to try the hip fire, and the hip fire is not really that much different when compared to using the laser sight. I'm actually going to add a suppressor and the vertical foregrip, and once again, hip fire is pretty good, but you do see there's a little bit more vertical recoil when you aim down sights. Now we're going to test it with just a suppressor and the hollow optic to see how it acts. So as you see when you hip fire it, there is a bit more bloom and recoil, and you still have the vertical recoil when you aim down sight. Now here's using the Enforcer AR with the hollow sight in close range combat. As you can see, when you're up close it's not really the greatest, but this weapon is better suited for more long range combat compared to close range. Now here's the same thing, except this one has a suppressor on it, as well as a hollow optic, and for some reason, it's actually a lot better shooting and hitting targets with it. The suppressor just makes the bullets fly way better, it seems. I'm not too sure why. Now here's using the weapon as a third-person AR, with no attachments to adjust the recoil, and it's still pretty good. Now we're going to attach just the 2x optic against an Enforcer AR with vertical foregrip and muzzle brake. Now look how small that crosshair again is, how quickly it resets. This thing has really quick first-person accuracy. And now look at the recoil on this weapon when you don't have any attachments with the 2x scope to control the recoil. So you definitely want that vertical foregrip on this thing every time. For the next clip, I tried to beam this guy off the bike using the 2x scope with no attachments, and then I accidentally was hip firing the Enforcer AR with the muzzle brake and the vertical foregrip. When I meant to use my shotgun, I had no problem hitting that guy off the bike. So you really do not need a laser sight on this thing. And now, here's the red dot sight. This is just too close of a range scope to be effective with this weapon. It should be avoided every single time, as this weapon is a slower fire rate and a heavy hitting damage weapon, but you're going to be outclassed at close range by any other weapon with a faster fire rate. You can hit some long distance shots with the hollow optic as well, but that would be the sight to use if you want to use this in more close range quarters. Now my favorite scope to use on this gun by far has to be the 2x, because when you have the vertical foregrip plus the muzzle brake, the thing just lasers people, and it's just absolutely amazing. But again, you want to try to keep distance, keep cover, and just fry them from a distance, get early tags on them. As you can see here, you can even win a sniper fight with this gun, because you can simply out-damage your opponent with a faster fire rate. And finally, we're going to test the sniper scope.
And this is the only AR that I would actually recommend putting a sniper scope on, as it actually is really good, and it was recently buffed that the bullet speed is faster, and that the bullets can also fly farther. And you actually can hit long distance shots with this weapon when using it as a sniper, and it only gets better when you actually add things like the muzzle brake or the vertical foregrip to further help the accuracy of this weapon at range. Now, with all that being said, my favorite attachments for this gun are as follows: the 2x scope and the speed mag, plus the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake if you're going to be using this as a sort of long range to mid-range weapon or a 2-gun loadout. Now, if you're going to use this as a solely long range weapon or a pseudo sniper, you're going to want the sniper scope, the drum mag for the extra bullets, the vertical foregrip, and the suppressor so people can't tell where your shots are coming from. Definitely try this thing out as a sniper build, because I think you might just find that you like it.
And last but not least, let's discuss the Reaper Sniper Rifle. Now, the uncommon one does 105 damage, while the legendary one does 121 damage. Next, we're going to compare the angled foregrip, just to see the difference in quickscoping speed. Then we're going to use the hollow optic and the red eye optic, as well as seeing if the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake actually does anything to reduce the recoil on this weapon. As you can see, the weapon doesn't kick up as much after the shot with the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake, but you only get one shot at a time, so you're really not getting any advantage by using this. Next, we're going to test the speed of the drum mag reload compared to the speed mag reload. As you can see, the speed mag is notably faster, but at the same time, you're most likely going to be using this weapon in long range with cover, so you might as well go for the drum mag with the extra bullets. Now we're going to do some testing with this weapon close range with no scope on it, and this just really is not the play, in my opinion. Yes, you can do a lot of damage, it can be very good, but more times than not, you're just going to be way better off with a scope compared to without a scope. Next, we're going to be testing the red eye sight in combat on the Reaper Sniper Rifle. Now, this is a little bit better than going no scope, but more times than not, you're most likely going to be wanting to use this weapon at really far ranges anyway. Next, we're going to be trying the Hollow 13 optic, as well as the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake, just to see if it helps us hit our shots in close range combat. As you can see, I don't really have any trouble hitting my shots with the Hollow 13 optic and the suppressor on it than with the vertical foregrip and the muzzle brake, the other sniper. Next, we're going to be testing the P2X optic on the Reaper Sniper Rifle. This is one of the best optics to use on this weapon, as it will allow you to hit shots at very long range, and is also very versatile, and can also help you out greatly when you get into close range fights as well. And at the time I'm recording this, the scope also does not have any sniper glint at all when aiming down sights. As you can see here, you can quickly delete multiple opponents quickly when you're using this sight in more close range to medium range engagements. And in terms of rarity on the sniper rifle, I really don't think rarity matters too much, as every single one will do over 100 to the body, and every single one of them can also one-shot with a headshot. So you're much better off having a sniper with the scope you like or the better attachments on it, than you are to have one with a higher rarity and the attachments that are not good for the weapon. So now we're going to be using the sniper scope on the sniper and comparing it to the 2x scope here. And now this is actually my favorite scope for the sniper, even though it has sniper glint on it, so people can kind of see when you're aiming down sights. I don't think that really matters a whole lot, as you're still going to be able to hit shots at much farther ranges than without it. The only time the sniper scope does fall short is when you're in close range engagements, as it can be harder for you to be able to track that opponent when using the scope. So now, the Reaper Sniper Rifle was recently nerfed, so the bullet drop is much more drastic than it was before, and also the bullet speed, but it's still one of the most overpowered weapons that you can pick up in Fortnite Chapter 5. The more you try sniping, the better you're going to get at it, so that's one of the best tips and tricks that I can really give you in order to succeed when using this weapon. Also, you're going to want to always try to take your fights from an area of high elevation, or use cover. Like you see here, I'm using this roof to kind of keep myself covered and not get shot at in between taking my shot. So the optimal attachments to be using on this weapon, in my opinion, go as follows. You're going to want the sniper scope, you're going to want the drum mag to have 2 extra bullets in the clip, the angled foregrip to aim down sights faster, and the suppressor in order to hide your location better. And now that will bring us to the end of this video. Now hopefully you learned something here. I know I definitely did while testing all these things out. Like I was really surprised that using the red dot sight on the shotguns lessens the spread of the bullets on it. That was very surprising to me. And as well that I've also figured out that a lot of attachments act differently depending on what weapon that you put them on. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. But that's it for me, Big Papa Smurf 187 out. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what attachments you like using on your weapons in Fortnite Chapter 5. Catch you next time. Have fun gaming. Bye.